with others as what the researchers call, like Meltzoff and Tomasello, like me. So we have some deeper understanding that others are fundamentally like me. And with that, another finding is that chimpanzees don't really ascribe causal intentions to other chimpanzees. That is, they're very socially intelligent in terms of understanding social relationships, things that happen before that lead to certain consequences, but they don't fundamentally have an understanding of another human mind as a source of hidden causality for intention. And another study by Meltzoff that gets at this unique human capacity is he wanted to see if human infants would be satisfied with just copying the surface gestures, or if they could read below surface gestures to understand the underlying intention or goal of other humans, even if that goal could not be seen. So in this experiment, Meltzoff had a dumbbell with two ends on it that could be removed, and the infant sees the adult hold the dumbbell, grasp one end of the dumbbell, and rather than pulling the end off, the adult is actually grabbing and purposefully slipping. So the adult's grabbing and slipping, and rather than grabbing and pulling it off, the infant only sees the adult grabbing and slipping. When given to the infant, he wanted to see if they would copy the surface behavior, which is the grabbing and slipping, or if they would want to copy and could read underneath that surface behavior to imitate the underlying intention. And indeed, in fact, the infants would grab the dumbbell and pull it off, right? Without ever seeing the goal accomplished by the adult, and presumably not having an experience with this toy in this way. And to take that even a step further, and this is really where imitation of intentions gets really fascinating and complex, is that he would trick the infant in another experiment by gluing the end of that dumbbell together. Right? So when the infant was given a chance to pull it off to imitate the underlying intention of the adult, they couldn't. And they would grab and slip. So they're actually forced to imitate the surface behavior, grabbing and slipping. Well, the infants weren't satisfied with this. And what they did is they became very much more engaged and creative, and they would take the dumbbell and manipulate it, put it between their legs, try and pull it off this way, put it in different positions and yank at it to really get that end of the dumbbell off and achieve the goal, intentional state of the adult. And when they couldn't, because it was glued, they would look up at the adult and plead to them. Why can't I do this? I know what you're trying to do, but I can't do it. And so you can see how there's this very deep desire to not just perform the surface behavior, but to get at the underlying intention of the adult. And with this, imitation becomes very complex, because what it means is we can imitate each other without our behaviors looking exactly the same. If we have the same goal, or I imitate some goal of yours, I can find a very different behavioral pathway to get to the same place. And so this gets at our fundamental desire to share in these same behavioral goals and objectives. Now the buttons are working. That's great. Another thing that I didn't say really quick is that I sort of alluded to is what is unique about human desire is that we desire to share psychological states for that purpose in and of itself. A way of thinking about this is young children, as we know, as they learn all sorts of new things as they're young, it's not just satisfying for them to learn and be able to perform something new, but they want and actually need somebody else to know that they're doing it and while they're doing it. So of course, those of you who have children know that when a young child does something, they'll say, Mommy, Daddy, look at me. Watch me do this. Watch me do this. I need you to share in this experience with me. It's as if you don't, somehow it's not actually real to them. They need you to be sharing that same psychological, emotional behavioral experience with them at some level. And Meltzoff has done some really interesting studies showing how children will know if you're actually not paying attention to them. And as they participate in these imitative games back and forth, they'll vary their gestures in such a way to see if you're tracking with them, right? And of course, this plays out in adulthood as well. If a friend or a spouse is not paying attention to you while you're talking, what will you do? Hey, are you really with me? Are you listening to me? Right? So it's not just a matter of having somebody there responding to you in time, and then thinking about something else, right? Our desire is actually to have somebody right there with us and share these psychological states. So really quick, this is Michael Tomasello wrote a book in 1999 called The Cultural Origins of Human Cognition, where he goes into how human imitation is really this very generative capacity on multiple levels. One term that he uses for this is the ratchet effect. So humans phylogenetically are born with the ability to identify with others as an intentional and mental beings like the self. This allows us to participate in joint attention on things and to imitate one another. So we're born with this capacity. We don't have to learn it. It does emerge through interaction with others, but it's something that is given to us through evolutionary endowment. From this capacity to read another's intentions, we can build off of those intentions even if somebody doesn't fundamentally accomplish the goal, and this is how new creative things are developed together as we learn and build the various tools, games, all sorts of things with one another. So we're born with this, and then historically, this capacity over time within a generation enables sociogenesis and cultural learning that accumulate modifications of time. So if you think about the development of computer technology within one generation, right, as intentions and build off of one another, then as a new child comes into the world who's had no experience with all the historical cultural accumulation, can very immediately absorb these new cultural artifacts, and then themselves develop unique modes of perspectively based cognitive representation in the process. So imitation and joint attention is not only important in generating new forms of culture, but it's also fundamental for transmitting that culture from one generation to the next. Now I have to say something really quick about mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are another piece of this puzzle of cognitive cultural continuity from animal to humans. Mirror neurons were discovered in the macaque monkey by a group of Italian scientists in 1996, and what they found through measuring with an electrode on a single neuron in the premotor cortex was that, first of all, they were trying to identify specific neurons in the premotor cortex that would respond to specific hand gestures, such as grasping a piece of food. They wanted to see what mirror neurons were specialized for just grasping. And they were recording the activities of these neurons as they would put a piece of food in front of the monkey, and the monkey would reach and grab. Well, what they found somewhat by accident is that as the experimenter himself reached out to grab the piece of food, as the monkey stayed stationary, that same neuron that was firing in the monkey when they were grabbing would now fire just by mere observation of the human grasping. So what this meant was, at a very automatic, unconscious, sub-personal level, there's some fundamental mirroring process or matching of action and observation within the monkey brain. And this is thought to underlie the capacity for monkeys to understand the action of other monkeys. And also what it does fundamentally is it primes those monkeys to act in the same way. And so there's action understanding